Hello, this is Demon Phoenix with the next installment of my Final Fantasy X Overpowered walkthrough, and this time we are just going to continue with Gargazette and move on to Zanuck. Now, a good chunk of the later parts of the game features some nasty bosses, and we're about to get a few of them in fairly quick succession. So, last time we just finished up talking to Lance, who is a black brother. Make sure you speak to him on Gargazette, you only get one chance at it. Now, after you reach your save point shortly after him, you meet this guy again, pain in the backside. Anyway, you have to fight Seymour, and this is one of the tougher boss battles. And it's probably, I would say definitely the toughest one you've had to date. Now, the problem with this battle is he has a ton of hit points, and I actually didn't have too bad a time of it because this is an overpowered walkthrough, and I've been trying to make a few key grinding spots to make it as strong as possible. So I'll just get everybody a turn, and you'll see that this fight goes slightly, well, pretty easily for myself, but it can be a very difficult fight. Now, one thing you'll actually see me not doing here is I don't cast bio or use a poison fang on him, but that is an extremely important thing to do usually. I don't want to risk losing the overkill, but it's not such a big concern, and bio ends up doing tons of damage to him. So if Lulu has bio, use it. You also could just use a poison fang if you've been able to get any so far. You can steal them from the Nebiros or the little flying bug enemies on the Calm Lands, so you may have stolen one or two of those. So cast bio and make sure it's on Seymour, not on Mortiorchis, his little shield. Now when you do a bunch of damage to him, he'll cast Protect on himself, much like he did before. So before you do any other heavy damaging attacks or waste any overdrives on him or anything like that, make sure that you are casting Dispel with either Yuna or if Kimahri has it, from going down Yuna's path on the way to Holy, which you probably should do if you've been following this walkthrough. Then you can dispel it with that. Now, the reason I said in the last episode about buying a bunch of holy waters or considering buying one of the zombie ward armors from Lance is that Seymour will use Lance of Atrophy, which can make you zombified, and then we'll use healing attacks to do tons of damage to you. And as you can see here, you can't get rid of it with Asuna or Dispel, so you need to cure the zombie status with holy waters from the item command. If you have been watching up to now, then you may have a quick hit with Kimahri and Tidus and Orin from moving them to that section of the grid, so you can use that to get a few more turns in. And as you can see here, although Lulu doesn't have double cast yet, I bought her the magic booster Cactuar and taught her the 1 MP cost with the 3 stars from Remiem Temple, and so you can use Flare to hit with that. Now again, you just saw Seymour there, he's cast Reflect on himself and then Flare so that you can bounce the spells back, and that does a lot of damage, especially considering that Lulu actually does have good magic defense. And Mortiorchis like this will start charging up to use an extremely powerful attack, so if you don't think that you'll be able to kill him in time, then you need to think about casting Shell or using Mighty Guard with Kimahri, so that you'll be able to do that. Now what you can do is, as long as you have Dispelled, like I say, before you waste any overdrives, you can just use attack reels, and if you can get the timing down for it and get 2 hits on all the reels, it does 12 hits. So I expect everybody probably knows that by now. But 12 hits of attack reels will do a good chunk of him. And you do get a little break between this boss and the next big battle that's coming up to recharge your overdrive, so you can always head back down the mountain to do that. So there, when you take out Mortiorchis, it will use Mortisorption again and do more damage to Seymour, so that's a good thing to do. So I just used Kimahri and Yuna to dispel the Reflect and let me do big damage with my magic users, and make him waste more turns by casting Reflect. And you can see here that I was very easily able to do all of that damage before he charged up his ultimate attack, particularly if you're using overdrives, and if Yuna has a double cast and flare like she does here, which was part of what we could learn in the last episode. You can get overkill like that and be able to take him out with double cast flare. So the main things to remember are just bio, remove his flare before trying to attack him, and try and do as much damage as possible. So when Seymour is taken out, you get a little bit of a break. There is another save point coming up, but you can always double back down the mountain a little bit and get in a few random encounters and use Slayer to maybe get some overdrives back, particularly attack reels and either Slice and Dice or Blitz Ace. Get Tidus and Wakka's overdrives back up to scratch, back up to full, using Slayer to kill a few enemies, just in case you want to make the next boss a little more manageable. But you do get a good chunk of AP if you're able to kill Seymour there, and there's a few different things that you want to consider when doing that fight, but those are the main ones. Now when you're continuing on, you see this little area with the pillars, and I almost ran past it because I forgot, but you see just before the save point you caught a glimpse of that chest there, and that actually has a crest in it for one of the ultimate weapons, the celestial weapons, so make sure you grab that as well. After you've saved and healed up, and if you want to go back and fill up your overdrives a little bit, then you continue and you've got another boss. Now this one's not quite as difficult, but it's still a pretty tricky boss and you need to be careful of it. There's one attack in particular that is extremely dangerous. Now this thing has an interesting habit of casting Reflect on itself as well, but you can just make sure that you manage them not having Reflect and using Lulu and Yuna to be able to cast big damage on it. And again, you'll see here that you can actually use Magic Break on it to lower its damage a little bit there. But what you want to do is, again, maximum damage as much as possible and just take it out, and it'll go a lot easier if you want to use some of the Aeon's Overdrives or Tidus or Wakka's Overdrives. Now one of the things that you have to watch out for with this thing, as you can see here, I cast Reflect with Lulu, with Yuna, sorry, because I was trying to stop it from being able to cast spells on her, but it has this extremely nasty attack, which is Photon Wings. So before the battle you want to, if at all possible, get Confuse Ward armor. So if you have any Confuse Ward armors, you want to get them particularly on Yuna and your hard hitters, because the hard hitters, you don't want them attacking your own party, and Yuna, you want her to be able to heal up the party with Asuna, and that's a very useful thing to be able to do. So make sure that you're using Confuse Ward armors for this fight if at all possible. Again, if you've used Quick Hit, you can make short work of the boss in relative terms by being able to do a ton of damage to him, and if you have attack reels and timing is actually on point, then you can use 12 hits of attack reels to do big damage as well. I haven't quite got my timing back because I've not been using overdrives very much this playthrough, because I've just been killing everything anyway. But if you can get attack reels, you can do a big chunk of damage with that, or you can use Slice and Dice or Blitz Ace as well, and if you can, make sure that everybody gets a turn so they can all do big damage. Now you can see here that from the effects of Photon Wings before, I have actually need to use an echo screen with Yuna because she's silent, so she can't use Asuna. So just bear that in mind if you want to use magic after the Photon Wings attack as well. But here, pretty easy. I'm able to take it out with the combined power of the overdrives, generally hitting quite hard, and again you can dispel Reflect if it casts it on itself, so that it's not able to bounce spells off Reflect against you. So after you've taken out that, then you will be heading on to Zanuck. And Zanuck, there are a few things to watch out for. It's mainly just picking up all of the items in the chest. There are some really good items in Zanuck as you're making your way there. So there's a cutscene first and then you end up in Zanuck. These Fallen Monks, I've done a quick separate video which should be up about the same time, about how you can steal Purifying Salts with a Master Thief armor, as you just saw there. And then if you have the patience, or you want to steal 30 of those, then you can actually make an encounter none, so no encounters armor there, before you get the 99 Purifying Salts as a Monster Arena reward. Now you get to the Zanuck Cloister of Trials. I've not shown it here because you don't have to worry about the Destruction Sphere. You can't get the Destruction Sphere yet anyway. So you want to make sure that if you have Berserk Ward on any of your armors, you try and get that. And counter-attack weapons can be quite useful for the next boss fight as well. So here you see I've just switched out from my capture weapons because I have still been capturing things up to this point. And the enemies in Zanuck, there are a few that are countered the Mount Gargazet area, so things like Dark Flan, which are otherwise occasionally a little difficult to come across. Anyway, you can make sure that you save it after you've done the Zanuck Cloister of Trials, because we have this boss, Spectral Keeper. And again, he's quite a difficult boss compared to some of the previous ones that we've had. These endgame ones are quite fun because they're quite a good challenge, and they take a little bit of tactics. Now, the interesting thing about this boss is he only has 3 attacks. He has Berserk Tail, which is why we need Berserk Ward armors if possible. And he has Glyph Mine, which he lays on these 6 platforms, and you can see that the characters, your characters, have trigger commands to move on the platforms. And you see Riku just moved behind him there. So whenever you attack him, this boss will counterattack with a large counterattack that hits in front of him. It hits the three glyphs which are in front of him, and it does quite a lot of damage as well. So you want to get protect if you can on your characters, but more importantly you want to keep 2 characters at least behind him at all times. So you see here that he has quite high magic defense. So Una double cast flare on him and it does big damage, and he does this sweeping counter attack which does a lot of damage, and you can see it does a decent chunk of pain there to Tidus. So if anybody gets knocked out, then you just need to be making sure that Una is hasted and can cast life on them, or your quicker characters can use Phoenix Down, which is very useful. And if a character is behind the boss, then they are safe until he turns around and does Berserk Tail. So you want to keep at least 1 or 2 of your characters behind him at all times. And the reason that I said about the counterattack weapons is that if he gets a hit in on your characters, it can be useful to get that extra damage on, as you'll see in a moment. So again, he attacks in front, it hits the 3 glyphs there as well. Now when he puts this glyph mine down, he puts sort of a timed explosive, and you'll see the turn come up for when the platform is due to explode. So you need to use the trigger command and move your characters off any platform that's going to explode. So again, if you try and keep at least, if you just keep 2 of the characters behind him at all times, and you see here that Orin is able to actually finish the boss off in a minute with quite a strong counter hit, and he did not have the Berserk armor though, so that's why he has actually had Berserk put on him. And you need to be keeping your characters healed and keeping them alive with Phoenix Downs or life, because you don't want to risk getting behind on the boss and then him getting either one of your last characters berserked or something like that. You need to be quite careful with that. So as you can see here, you can just take a quick hit, and then if you're able to survive his counterattacks, Orin can do a big hit like that with the counterattack. So a few other things to consider there. Not the most difficult boss, but like a little bit of tactics, and he does have quite a lot of hit points. So after you've completed the Spectral Keeper, you're going to want to, there's a couple of cutscenes. I think you can watch the next 2 cutscenes before you actually go into the final chamber for the next boss. So make sure that you save it after that and heal up, and if you need to come back out, you can also build up your Aeon's Overdrives or your character's Overdrives to make the next fight a little easier. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe for more videos, and I will see you for the next part of the walkthrough. Goodbye.